For Wednesday, July 22nd, 2020. This is Michael James Ott, and I am the host of the Pro and Con Show. Welcome to the show. As always, welcome to the show. So the show is about all of us trying to be better citizens. It's about me, trying to have influence on folks, to try to do that, and hopefully other people will watch some of these videos and say to themselves, you know what? He's right. We need to be more engaged. We need to be more open to listening to each other, to avoid this. It's a word called agonism, which is this taking these warrior stances when there's really no provocation for that. And right now, the two parties and their agents have been pushing our emotional buttons and dividing us into these two tribes. And then people just jump into this warrior stance, or they jump into this warrior position whenever any of the topics that face us come up, and that's very unfortunate, because the way we're going to get those resolved is step by step, laying the groundwork, which means we have to listen to each other and the opposing views, the pro and the con, the good and the bad, the for and against, and hence the Pro and Con Show. Today's show, I talk about a lot of different things on the show, and I've talked about more healthy eating and stuff like that. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting. Now, if you haven't heard about that in the past, I encourage you to look it up. So search on the internet and start reading about something called intermittent fasting. And why do I want you to start doing that? Well, one of the things that we can do, all of us, to make our lives better, to feel better, to live healthier, longer lives that are higher in quality, right? Quality of life, is to do things better to take care of ourselves. And there's growing evidence that this, what's called intermittent fasting, can actually be a change in lifestyle that seems to be somewhat easy for many of us to implement, and it can have health benefits. So what is intermittent fasting? Well, this is where I can't possibly cover it all, nor should I. I mean, you folks that are interested in this, you need to do some research and look into it. But intermittent fasting is, the concept is that, and there's kind of two main versions. There's one version where people take a couple of days a week and they greatly reduce their calorie intake and stuff like that, and eat specific foods and things like that. And then they go the rest of the week kind of behaving normally, and they get health benefits from that. They do things like lose weight, and their lipid panels, their low density cholesterol and things like that improve, and some things like that. Or there's another version which you look at every 24-hour period, and you try to limit your caloric intake to a certain window of that 24-hour period. So and it depends on what your goals are. If you want to try to lose weight or whatever, you try to limit it to a much smaller window. So say 3 or 4 hours, 3, 4, 5 hours. If you want to just kind of feel better and maybe just generally have a little bit better health, you can limit it to, let's say, 7 hours or 8 hours or something like that. And again, read up on it. I'm not professing to be the expert in it, but I can tell you that personally I decided to try it. And what I do is I try to limit my eating to, say, a 4 or 5 hour window. And I try to do that around midday, so the noon hour plus minus. I try to do that. And what does that mean? Well, it means that I'm not eating food just before you go to bed. And I'll tell you that anybody who's lived on this planet for any amount of time, you know that the worst thing you can do as far as gaining weight and stuff like that is to, eat big bowls of ice cream and then go to bed, at 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. What it does is your body stores all that extra energy as fat. So there's anecdotal evidence that these things are better. And oh, by the way, if I eat and take in my calories, between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. or something like that, then there's opportunities both before and after for me some activity. So just, mowing the grass or walking down the street or whatever is consuming calories from my body. And this is a good thing. I'm basically taking some of those fat stores and I'm getting them out and I'm using them. And so I wonder, you think about, well, why might it work? And there's different theories and stuff like that. But the thing that seems to make sense to me is most of us acknowledge that we as a species, we've been around for, tens of thousands of years, 200,000 years, whatever. It's been a long time, 1,000,000 years. Okay, it's been a long time. And during that period, the vast majority of that period, until just recently, we were kind of hunter-gatherer kind of folk. So we went around and you tried to kill a rabbit or whatever, and sometimes you were successful. And then, obviously you would do that and you'd eat this stuff. And then, but, there's no way that the hunter-gatherers back in the day had, like 3 square meals and that kind of stuff that was promoted for a long time, as good nutrition, and so our bodies, we have, adapted, if you will, to that kind of stuff over a long period of time, generations of us, because that's how food came to us. We had these sporadic incidents of getting food, and so your body had to adapt to that, or you died. And so the people that lived the longest, of course, had more children, and so that step by step caused us to adapt as a species to kind of this intermittent, irregular, feeding kind of thing. And so that's why, to me, in my mind, that seems pretty clear that's why this intermittent fasting would be something that would work for us, because our bodies kind of are adapted to this kind of change in intake, and kind of an irregular intake. And I've seen, and it's one of those things, people, you make recommendations, you try stuff, and back in the day, 40 or 50 years ago, we're going to eat, certain meals, and we're going to eat them on a regular basis and all this stuff. That's going to be, what we're going to try. And what we found is that has contributed to, it seems like, significant health issues, because in those intervening decades, we've struggled with, cholesterol and heart disease and stuff like that. Part of it is, we do a lot of the snacking and stuff like that, but the part of it, I think, is the fact that the way we're eating. And the other thing that I will say is, if you're doing the intermittent fasting, it seems like you can eat things that aren't as good for you, if you will, than if you're eating all the time. And that seems to make sense too, right? If you're eating all the time, you're going to want to avoid a Whopper or a Big Mac or a big slab of pizza or something like that, because if you're eating all the time, then when you take one of those things in, it's going to go to your, as fat and cholesterol and stuff in your body, and you're not going to have the opportunity to burn it off because you're going to eat some more. And so you got to eat, vegetables and stuff like that much more. And by the way, I'm in no way saying that vegetables and things like that aren't part of intermittent fasting or a potential health style, lifestyle around intermittent fasting. Obviously not, but it seems like it can afford you the opportunity to eat things that normally people would say, oh, it's probably not all that good for you. A big bowl of ice cream, a couple of, big hamburgers or something, a big chunk of pizza or an entire small pizza or whatever. It would seem like this intermittent fasting thing would, and it has for me, anecdotally, allowed me to do those kinds of things and not apparently suffer consequences. So anyway, the whole show, I just really wanted you to be introduced to this concept of intermittent fasting and to look into it for yourselves and decide whether you think it'll work for you, because it could be, for many of us, part of a more healthy lifestyle going forward, a way to stay out of the hospitals, a way of avoiding those emergency room costs and so on. Okay, so for the Pro and Con Show, I'm Michael James Ott. Until the next show, bye for now.